Imagine being locked in a prison thousands of miles from home, beaten, starved, and silenced, yet still finding a way to whisper the truth across oceans. This was not fiction. It was the reality for American POWs in North Vietnam's infamous Hoa Lo prison, better known as the Hanoi Hilton. But among the brutality and despair, a secret war was being waged, one of coded letters, hidden messages, and quiet resistance. This is the untold story of the American spies who operated behind enemy bars. Welcome to Criminal File. Hoa Lo Prison, grimly known as the Hanoi Hilton, was far more than just a place of incarceration. Hidden within its oppressive walls was a torture chamber where pain and despair were methodically inflicted upon prisoners. Built by the French colonial government and later used during the Vietnam War, this sinister chamber bore witness to unimaginable cruelty. Its dark legacy remains a haunting reminder of the human capacity for brutality. As we dive into the chilling depths of Hoa Lo, be prepared, mentally and physically. Hoa Lo Prison, infamously dubbed the Hanoi Hilton by American POWs, stands as one of Vietnam's most notorious sites of suffering and resilience. Originally constructed by the French in the late 19th century during their colonial rule over Vietnam, the grim fortress was designed to stifle the growing nationalist movement fighting for independence. The name Hoa Lo itself, translating to fiery furnace or hell's hole, was fittingly taken from the street on which it was built, once known for its bustling trade in wood and coal. Yet the sinister irony of that name would only grow more appropriate as tales of cruelty and disappearance emerged from behind its thick stone walls. The French colonialists built Hoa Lo with the clear intention of imprisoning political dissidents, revolutionaries, and anyone suspected of harboring anti-colonial sentiment. Its architecture was imposing and deliberately designed to intimidate. High walls lined with broken glass shards loomed over the grounds, while heavy iron gates clanked open only to swallow unfortunate souls into its depths. The oppressive heat and stifling humidity of Hanoi's tropical climate made the air thick and heavy, amplifying the misery inside. Inside, the conditions were nothing short of horrific. Cramped cells, often overcrowded with prisoners, offered no respite from the suffocating heat. Sanitation was nearly non-existent. Buckets served as toilets. Food was scarce, often consisting of watery soup and stale rice, barely enough to keep the body alive. Disease spread quickly, and medical care was almost mythical. The air, thick with the stench of sweat, blood, and hopelessness, clung to every corner of the prison like an invisible shroud of death. Torture was not just a possibility, it was a certainty. Prisoners were subjected to gruesome interrogations, beatings, and long periods of solitary confinement. The French guards believed that pain could extract the truth, and in their dark methods, many were broken. Shackles, whips, and the dreaded stocks were used without hesitation. Those who survived bore scars, physical and psychological, that never truly healed. But the walls of Hoa Lo didn't just echo with cries of agony. They also whispered stories of defiance. Despite the relentless brutality, many Vietnamese revolutionaries held on to their ideals. They passed messages through secret codes, hummed forbidden songs, and carved hidden words of hope into the stone. These acts of silent resistance became the soul of the prison, a pulse that refused to die. During the Vietnam War, the prison took on a new and equally disturbing chapter. Captured American pilots, shot down over North Vietnam, were held here. They were forced into propaganda films, tortured for information, and kept in harsh, degrading conditions. The irony of calling it the Hanoi Hilton wasn't lost on them. It was sarcasm born from pain. The stories from these POWs later shocked the world, revealing the extent of psychological warfare practiced behind those walls. As we move deeper into the legacy of Hoa Lo, we must remember this was more than a prison. It was a crucible of suffering, a breeding ground of resistance, and a monument to the worst, and sometimes the best, of what humanity is capable of. Among the many souls who passed through the gates of Hoa Lo, countless names were lost to time, but some stories endured, etched in memory, preserved in whispers, and carried forward through generations. One such story is of Nguyen Van Cu, a young revolutionary and general secretary of the Indochinese Communist Party. Captured and imprisoned by the French, he endured relentless torture, but never betrayed his comrades. His silence spoke louder than any confession. Locked in one of the prison's darkest cells, he wrote letters with pieces of coal, encouraging others to remain strong. Eventually, he was executed, but to his fellow inmates, he died a hero, not a prisoner. There was also the chilling case of female political prisoners who were kept in isolation for months, their only crime being their voices raised against colonial oppression. One survivor later recalled how she was kept in total darkness for weeks. Her fingernails were ripped out, and yet, when she was finally freed, she walked out with her head high. They could break my bones, she said, but never my beliefs. Then came the American POWs, names that would later become known across the world. John McCain, a U.S. Navy pilot, was one of them. Shot down over Hanoi in 1967, he was pulled from Truk Bak Lake with broken arms and a shattered leg. Instead of medical treatment, he was thrown into Hoa Lo. He later described the beatings, the starvation, the solitary confinement that stretched on for months. But even in such darkness, he recalled how prisoners communicated by tapping on walls, letters in Morse code, building a secret language of survival. McCain would survive and return home, but a part of him, he admitted, never truly left that prison. The cells were brutal. Some were so narrow a man couldn't lie down. The stocks forced inmates to sit for days, their legs locked in iron, unable to move. Guards watched without empathy. Rats scurried freely. Lights rarely worked. Windows, if they existed, offered no view of the world, just shadows dancing on damp stone. And yet within this world of torment, flickers of human spirit still burned. Prisoners taught each other poetry. They etched the names of their fallen comrades onto the walls. Some even managed to escape, though most were caught, punished mercilessly. Still, the idea of freedom, however distant, lived on. When the echoes of war finally faded and Vietnam stood as an independent nation, Hoa Lo prison remained, a hulking reminder of the past, its thick walls soaked in memory. But time, with its quiet persistence, began to change the landscape. The instruments of pain were removed. If you're still watching, you might as well like and subscribe. The cells, once crowded with screams, were cleaned and emptied. Yet, even stripped of their cruelty, the walls seemed to remember. In the 1990s, the majority of the original prison complex was demolished to make way for Hanoi's modernization. Skyscrapers rose, roads expanded, and the rhythm of a new Vietnam pulsed through the city. But a small section of Hoa Lo was preserved, turned into a museum, a monument to the torment that once gripped it. Today, tourists walk through those same gates where revolutionaries once marched in chains. Inside, exhibitions display the shackles, the torture tools, the crude cells, and faded photos of prisoners, both Vietnamese and American. Walls tell stories in silence. Glass boxes hold handwritten letters, torn uniforms, and rusty keys. One corner showcases the propaganda posters and films used during the war. Another section honors the resilience of Vietnamese freedom fighters who endured the horrors of captivity without surrendering their beliefs. Yet walking through it, you can't help but feel the chill. No matter how polished the floors or how curated the displays, the air is still heavy. The shadows still linger. The silence carries weight. It is as if the suffering clings to the stones, refusing to be erased by time or tourism. For many, the museum serves as a painful reflection. For Vietnamese visitors, it's a reminder of the brutal colonial era and the price paid for independence. For Americans, it's a doorway into a war whose wounds still ache beneath the surface. For the world, it stands as a powerful symbol of oppression, resistance, and the enduring struggle for freedom. Hoa Lo prison no longer echoes with the cries of the tortured, but its legacy is far from silent. It speaks through scars, through stories, through stone. It warns us of what unchecked power can do. And perhaps, most importantly, it asks us to remember. In the heart of Hanoi, where the world rushes forward and the skyline stretches upward, Hoa Lo prison still stands, not as a cage of steel and stone, but as a monument of memory. Its past cannot be undone. Its pain cannot be erased, but its story, raw and real, continues to echo. For every visitor who walks its halls, there's an invisible weight, a presence felt but not seen. It's in the photographs that stare back. It's in the cold iron shackles resting silently behind glass. It's in the silence of a cell that once held 1,000 cries. The past lives here, not as history alone, but as a question. How far can human cruelty reach? And how far can the human spirit rise in response? Hoa Lo challenges us to confront both. It reminds us that even in the darkest dungeons of oppression, resistance can bloom. That dignity can survive even the most ruthless hands. That memory matters, because forgetting is the first step toward repeating. This was not just a prison. This was a battlefield of belief, a graveyard of pain, a sanctuary of silent strength. And long after its gates closed, Hoa Lo's story remains open for those brave enough to listen. Certainly, here's the ending message in English, written in a smooth, emotional paragraph style that leaves a lasting impression and encourages viewers to return. A prison is never just stone and steel. It's memory, resistance, and untold pain carved into every wall. If this story stirred something within you, know that there are countless more stories, buried, forgotten, waiting to be heard. We're on a journey to uncover them, to give a voice to the silenced, to bring history out of the shadows and into the light, right in front of listeners like you. So if this resonated with you, stay with us, subscribe, and walk beside us through the corridors of the past. In the next video, we'll explore another place where echoes of suffering still speak, another chapter in the haunting book of human history. Until then, remember, not everything can be written down. Some things must be felt. Just like the silence still lingering in the walls of Ho'olo. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Thank you.